Alright, I am back after a hiatus where I went out of town for a couple of days and couldn't record videos to talk about New World. Not Destiny, because there's not really anything going on with Destiny unless something surprising happens in 30 minutes at reset. But as we have been over, that does not seem terribly likely for at least the next month until the December anniversary event. So it is back to New World, but really just back to talk about it. I'm not going back to play it right now. I am about to start playing Forza, and before that I was playing the Lost Ark beta, and I just have not really had time or desire to play New World lately, and I am not alone in that. The player population situation in New World is starting to get a little bit worrisome. The game started extremely strong, I think stronger than anyone anticipated, where with like over 900,000 concurrent players, it was one of the top played games in Steam history, which was very impressive. But since then, it has dropped off very, very quickly and significantly, which is not what you want to see for an MMO. And in addition to that, the type of game New World is heavily reliant on kind of a robust player population, and if it does not have that, it runs into very specific, kind of hilarious problems. Like, not hilarious if you're trying to play the game, but kind of a economy problem unlike anything I've really ever seen in the genre. So the numbers, I've been tracking these, and so I try to measure from the top concurrent peak each week, which is usually on a Sunday. And so we started at 913, then it dropped to 726 the next week. Okay, that's almost 200,000, but that's not the most unexpected thing. Then it dropped to 608,000, so that's 120 lost. But the last 4 weeks is what I've noticed the most. So it went from 608 to 508 to 404 to 304. So this is where we ended up this past Sunday, and then like on a weekday it's lower than that. But the problem here is the pace. Like you can see, it kind of coasts down a little bit, went from 200,000 to losing 120 to losing 100. But the last 4 weeks in a row, it has lost 100,000 players a week at its weekly peak, and that is not something you want to see, because that indicates that this is not slowing down, and we have not hit kind of the ultimate baseline of where the game will land yet. Like, in theory, in 3 weeks, this game should have 0 players. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, and we almost have to see this slowing down at some point, but we don't know what kind of the ultimate baseline is for this. Like, it could be anywhere from 200,000 players maybe to 50,000 players, and once you get down to that point, those are numbers that Amazon does not want to see for an MMO that they have put this level of time and resources into, and it is really their only functioning game at the moment, and they have a lot riding on it. As terms of why players left, like, this is the other problem, is like there is no, I don't think there's one specific reason why players are leaving. And that is a problem, because we are also headed into a very busy November with a lot of huge game releases, including at least one at the end of this month, Final Fantasy Endwalker, which is in direct competition to New World, and I think you are going to see a massive hit to New World when Endwalker gets here. MMOs do sort of have cycles where they lose players and get them back for expansions and stuff, but we don't know how New World is planning to introduce new content, or if they're doing small content drops or giant paid expansions or anything like that, and we have no timeline, no real idea of when anything like that might be coming to engage players. Right now, I will say Amazon Games has been working very hard to get out a number of patches very quickly to address this exploit or this bug or that bug or economy issues or whatever, but they are kind of just playing catch up with the parts of the game that are on fire, rather than solving longer-term structural problems like, okay, newer players or mid-tier players are burning out before they hit max level, or higher-tier players are hitting the end game and finding it too unrewarding, or there's nothing to do there, or whatever. Those are probably the two groups in terms of why they're leaving, respectively. And then combine that with the fact that New World does not have a subscription. So I think more than most MMOs, it is prone to get people to leave easier, because there's no downside in leaving. You're not like, okay, well, I'm paying the sub, like I should at least be logging in and checking it out and investing more. I'm not saying it needs a sub, or a sub is a better model, but I do think a sub kind of encourages player retention in a way that a one-time purchase that you can just set down whenever does not. And I think that is why a lot of MMOs have kind of leaned into that model. But the consequences of this are far-reaching, because it's not just like you have some basic stuff, like for instance, trying to run like dungeons now, which need a pretty robust group for a lot of these dungeons, is hard when your 2,000 max server is now a couple hundred people at a given time, and like you have to be on at a very specific time, doing a very specific objective with a very specific group of people that are at the level or want to accomplish the same things as you. With the like limitation to 2,000 people on a server, this isn't like a traditional game that has A, matchmaking. There's no matchmaking for stuff like this, or B, even just like a larger player pool. Like if you want to run Grandmaster Nightfall in Destiny, you have access to the entire player base of Destiny. So every player that is playing the game at that time, which for Destiny is, I don't know, at least 800 to a million, 800,000 to a million people a day or something like that. So that is the pool you are pulling from. Whereas in a game like New World, the pool you're pulling from is just however many people are on your server at a given time. And losing all these players as fast as they have, that means the server population, like on average, has gone way, way down, and there are very few kind of max population servers, which is sort of what you need for stuff like that to function. But the other problem really lies in the systems they built out for kind of maintaining your server map and like maintaining your upgrades. The main issue is the invasion system they've come up with, where every week or so, it used to be 4 days, I think it's a week now, the corrupted demons will like invade pretty much every zone, at one point during a week, and people on the map have to rally together and defend against a bunch of waves of demons. And it's a high level activity. Like, it is no joke. Like, it is hard. So it's not just like everyone can participate. It's like you really need all your kind of max level people to be doing this for the most part. And if you like fail to defend, or if you just don't bother doing this at all and don't show up at the like allotted day and time of the invasion, that region will lose crafting station upgrades, and it'll lose like fort defense upgrades too, but more importantly, it will lose crafting station upgrades. Crafting stations in New World have different tiers, so I think it's level 1 to 5. Level 1 being like it can make basic stuff, level 5 being it can make endgame activity stuff. And so it's not just that you have to level up your own crafting abilities in these certain categories, it's like you also need a town with a station that matches, that has the ability to match that level. So if you lose, all of these are downgraded. So you can like work together as a team or a faction or whatever and increase your level of your stone cutting or your gun crafting or armoring or whatever. But if you don't defend the invasion, if you don't show up at all, you will lose a bunch of ranks, across the board for different activities. And the higher level your zone is, the more you will lose. So if you're in a level 58 to 60 zone, you will lose more than if you were in a starter zone. But losing anything is not great. And the problem people are running into now is some people are on such, their servers have become so low population that it's a couple hundred, a couple dozen people, like they physically cannot defend against these invasions. There are not enough people to even do it or want to do it. And so they are just seeing mass downgrades across their entire map. So you can now exist on a map that does not have any stations above, I think the minimum you can sync to is tier 3, because some of the upper level regions have tier 3s at baseline that cannot be downgraded, but like you cannot do tier 4 and 5 stuff. You cannot craft anything pertaining to the end game. So you are sort of, I wrote in the article today, it's like the AI enemies are winning. Like they are conquering these worlds because they have chased enough people out of the game, and there are not enough people to defend their invasions. So the invasions just keep happening, and it's the cycle of everything in a server just getting reduced to nothing, to the point where players cannot progress, and they're just stuck with their minimum level upgrades, and so they can only make progress and get new gear through looting. They can't craft anything, and it's kind of a nightmare. And it is called for, some New World players are saying that they should just start merging servers, because they have to get the player population up. And it's not like, if a server has 200 out of 2,000 people active, they're not just going to find 1,800 people that are going to come, join the game or flood back to the game. Like they are going to have to change this. And I think they're probably going to have to ease up on the idea of invasions, like neutering all your upgrades. Like even when I was, even when things were pretty active, even a couple weeks ago, like it was still like there was maybe one or two tier 5 smelters or whatever you're looking for on the entire map. So you'd have to like fast travel to the one spot that is like upgraded itself to a tier 5. Like it's not like these are so abundant that it's such a problem for crafting and it's ruining the economy. Like it's like an extra layer of fuss that it doesn't need. And this happened to me a lot, where I'd finally hit the level of crafting I needed to do something, and then I'd go to the station and it would be too low level, and so I'd have to search around the map for the 2 or 3 stations that I could actually work at, and then spend 300 Azoth to get there or whatever. So that aspect of the economy and kind of the core gameplay loop of New World is in serious danger because of how low these populations are dropping. Like it is essentially at a third of what it was for launch, but the way the servers are structured, it's worse than that, because it's not just like it cleanly broke off 2/3 of the player base, and then what's left are a bunch of 2,000 population servers. It like cleaved on average 2/3 of the player base out of every server. So let's say every server was maxed at 2,000 to start with. Now it's at 600 or 700 on average, and like some are less than that. Like the super popular streamer server I'm in with like Ithalian and like all Courage and those guys, like that, I think the max right now is like 1,200, so that's like a good one, but it's still pretty far away from max. And then the lower tier ones again are a couple hundred, couple dozen in some instances. And like you may have joined a server to begin with that was low on purpose because you had trouble getting into busier servers. But now that is kind of a death sentence because of how reliant the game's economy is on having a robust population that can fend off these attacks. So this is not a good situation. They need to figure out a way to stop people from leaving, like give people some sort of bonuses to return past the like XP boost they get temporarily. And they need to rework some of the core systems for all levels of the game, low tier, mid tier, and end game, to get people to stay. They got to start merging servers, and they got to reduce penalties for invasions, because this is becoming very unsustainable on a lot of servers. I compared it in my article to like Farmville crops wilting, where it's like if you don't tend to your crops enough, they're going to wilt, and like it's that kind of mechanic in an MMO. Which again, I'm new to the MMO scene, but like this doesn't seem like a terribly good idea to start with, and this seems to be hurting the game a lot more than removing that kind of penalty would. Like, oh no, you have too many tier 4 and 5 crafting stations around the map. Like, is that a problem? Like, I don't really get what they're going for here, other than giving people kind of motivation to do those events in the first place. But I think now it is causing active harm to the game in a way perhaps they did not intend, because they did not anticipate server population being like this. So anyway, this is a fascinating game from the start. It's wild success at the beginning, how fast it's dropped off, them trying to scramble, to get things together in the interim, and kind of my own thoughts of like, yes, I do enjoy it, and yet X, Y, and Z things are very kind of absurd and not enjoyable. But I'm not like giving up on it. Like I will probably, return to it when I have time, or if I'm not actively doing something else, or if there's new updates and things. But for now, this is a pretty serious issue, and I'm definitely keeping an eye to see what the total population does and what they do about this invasion issue. So anyway, that's kind of the update of a couple posts I wrote throughout the week, and kind of with the status of the game right now. We'll see if there'll be anything to talk about soon, and I'll see if I can think about anything to talk about with Destiny over the next month or so. But I'm sure there will be something at some point, and I will go check reset in 15 minutes here to see what happens. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.